I know we've only known each other for 4 weeks and 3 days, but to me, it seems like 9 weeks and 5 days.
All right, all my passionate plant people and garden enthusiasts. Welcome to the Let's Get Growing show right here on the Urban Gardener channel. I'm Enoch. I'm your host today, and we've got a fantastic show ahead for you today. It is the second Sunday of the month for the Sunday edition today, and that means we've got our good friend Scott Wilson from Gardener Scott Channel joining with us today to answer all of your gardening questions. It's Ask Gardener Scott Day here on the show. So definitely everybody be prepared with some really awesome gardening questions for Gardener Scott when he comes on the show here in just a little bit later here as well. I want to mention to you too, right here at the top of the show, everybody get ready for our roll call. Yes, that's right. Let us know you're here. Let us know where you're growing from and what you got growing on in your garden there. And we'll get you a big shout out here in just a little bit here as well on the show too. Thank you everybody for being here with us today. It's really great to have you here. And if you can, right at the top of the show, let's go ahead and click that like button, hit the thumbs up, as well as subscribe and hit the bell notification so that you can be notified of all of our upcoming videos and live streams right here on the Urban Gardener channel, as well as share with all your garden friends. Let them know about the Let's Get Growing show and all the amazing, awesome guests that we get to talk to here each and every weekend. Yes, that's right. Each and every weekend. In fact, it is now your 3-day gardening weekend. That's right. We have a 3-day weekend here on the Let's Get Growing show now. As usual, we're here on Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern. But now we're also here Monday evenings as well too. That's right. We have the Green Room Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern with our good friend and co-host Natalie from the Fresh Princess joins us up with us, and I will let you know here just a little bit who we got coming up tomorrow night on the show as well as next week here too. So right on, we've got a lot going on there for the Green Room. You're definitely going to want to come and check out some of those shows. They've been really, really fun. And as well, too, big, huge shout out to all of you who are watching us on the replay. Thank you so much for joining with us here today on your time, and definitely drop into our comment section down below. And again, like roll call, let us know you're here, where you're growing from, what you got growing on. Definitely love to hear from all of you, even if you want to drop by and just say hi. So definitely get down into the comments there. Can't wait to hear from you. And if you are here with us on the show live, definitely join the conversation. Yeah, that's one of the best parts of this whole live stream here and doing this show is you, the audience. So definitely get into our chat there. Drop in your questions or comments and all of that, especially your questions. Garden Question Day here for Ask Gardener Scott coming up later. I want to see lots and lots of really great great questions as well too in the conversation, and we'll definitely make sure that we get those asked. And again, like I said, we got roll call coming up here in just a minute too, so definitely let us know where you are growing from, what you've got growing on, all of that there too as well. So right on. Excellent, everybody. Thank you so much for being here as well too. Let's check out some links down below. We got Gardener Scott links down below as well too, plus all of our other links for the channel and our contributors. We got lots of amazing contributors here on the show as well too, so definitely go down and check them out as well. So right on. Excellent, everybody. I also want to mention to you guys that we do have or we were here yesterday for our show, and if you didn't get a chance to be here with us yesterday, go back and check out and see some of the folks that we have here in our audience with us. We put some faces to the names of the people that we get to see here each and every weekend in the conversation. That's right, it's the community show yesterday, where you, the audience, are the guest, and we had a bunch of great gardeners on with us yesterday to have a great conversation with you, the audience. It's one of the fun things that we get to do here, again, with this live stream, is to be able to connect with you as well as share with you all these really great conversations with all these other amazing gardeners who join with us every weekend here on the show, like Gardener Scott today. But yesterday was all about you. So you guys were the guests, and I'll let you guys know too here coming up, in the next several weeks or so, when we'll have our next community show, so that you can get a chance to come on and join with us as well. And yeah, so those shows are really, really fun. Definitely looking forward to the next one for sure. It's always great to be able to hang out with you guys and get to meet you, get to know you a little bit better, learn about your gardens and all of that as well too. Also, like I mentioned, we've got the green room coming up tomorrow evening. I'll just go ahead and let you all know, tomorrow night with our good friend Natalie from the Fresh Princess, our co-host, we're going to be hanging out with Rebecca from Happy Heart Gardens. She'll be joining us along with Josh from the Plant Techie as well too. So looking forward to those conversations tomorrow evening. Again, just really, really fun show. I'm telling you, if you haven't had a chance to check out this show yet, it's just been really a great time. I love the idea, similar to what we'll do next week with our good friend Mark, and we've been doing with the book club and all of that, is to have a co-host and someone there with you, to ask all the questions and interview our guests and everything. So it's been a real fun, cool panel type show that we've been able to do on Monday evenings. And you'll definitely want to come and check us out tomorrow night, like I said, at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. So right on, everybody. Again, I hope you're all having a great time out in your gardens now. And I'm not sure, just kind of depends on where you're living, but hopefully you're getting some things started up if you're in the more northern climates, and getting things going, as spring is just right around the corner. That's right, spring is just around the corner. It's literally just a week or two away, and we'll be celebrating the first day of spring coming up here, and then weather should be warming up and getting ready for us over the coming months to be able to plan out all of our gardens and start getting this 2026 growing season started. I mean, how exciting! It's always the most fun, exciting time of the year during this time, because there's just either a lot of anticipation as we're building up our garden plans and getting our seeds started and doing all this sort of stuff, or again too, if you're more southern climates, you're probably already well into this and already harvesting some things probably. But and again, so it's exciting for all of us gardeners one way or another, if we're just depending on where we're living. I know I'm pretty excited for this gardening season coming up. I've been out doing some assessing and getting things together. I did spend just a little bit of time yesterday after the show going out there, kind of pulling some weeds and getting some things out there, and trying to get some things started up out in the outdoor garden space, as we're getting all of our seeds started for our our summer crops and stuff. My peppers, my tomatoes, here in another week or two we'll be doing those, and then we'll just be progressing from there. We're just going to let the gardening season snowball on us, and we'll just get rolling down the hill as we get going. So I'm really, really excited about what we've got coming up. So it's really going to be a great season. So I hope you're all getting a chance to get all of your garden stuff started up as well too, and possibly you could have some garden questions that are popping up right now too. So that's what makes today such a great show, is we got Gardener Scott on with us here just a little bit later too, so we'll be able to answer all of those garden questions. But right now, let's go ahead and jump right into our roll call.
My name is Kevin. Yeah. That is my name. Yeah. They call me Kevin. Yeah. Because that's my name. Roll call.
All right, everybody. It's roll call time. Let's go ahead and say hello to everybody in the conversation with us today. This is where we get to shout out. So if you haven't already gotten into the chat yet, just drop in there. Let us know where you're growing from. Let us know what you've got growing on. All of that as well there. And our good friend Jay here, our facilitator, producer in the conversation there, joining us from Midwestern Ontario, Canada, in the lee of Lake Huron. Thank you, Jay, for being here. Everybody keep an eye out in the conversation, in the chat, for different links and things as we're talking about stuff today. And yeah, and then let's see here. We got Paul from Guten Gardening already in the conversation. Awesome. Great to see you, Paul. Awesome to have you here with us, as well as Leslie. Great to see you here. Always great to see you when you're in the conversation with us, joining us from Colorado. And that's right, it's daylight savings time already. I wasn't quite as prepared for it. I didn't really think about it or know about it at all until it was mentioned on the show yesterday. And I'll tell you what, though, it's not the fun one really when it comes down to when we're adjusting time an hour or so, because we lose that hour. I certainly felt that loss of hour in sleep tonight for sure. But here it is. It's done. We're already on the other side of it. Daylight savings time is here, at least for us here in North America as well. I know around the globe, other people are waiting for their time changes as well too. Let's see here. Michael, good to see you here. Michael, thanks for joining us from Alabama, Zone 8A7B in the mountains of Alabama. Right on. Thank you for being here. So awesome to have you. Dusty Flats, right on. Great to see you here. And Dusty says, is it spring yet? Not quite. We're almost there. And I know, again, too, for those folks who are living in the more northern climates, it seems like it's still pretty far off. But I swear, it's coming. It's on its way for sure. Habitual Hobbies, our guest from last Monday's Green Room, joining with us here in the conversation. Hello, friend. It's good to see you. Along with Nope. Joining with us here. I love that name. That's so great. And Habitual says, here in southern Missouri, just got the brassicas planted out and started tomato and pepper seeds. All right, excellent. That's great. Yeah, I got peppers that I'm growing. I got a kind of a different plan that I'm going to do, or was originally thinking of doing this year. So I'm kind of switching things up a little bit, but I've got some pepper seeds that I've got planted and started out and for our garden this year. And then, like I was saying earlier, tomatoes maybe another week or two away. But yeah, really excited. It's always exciting when we get to our seed starting for sure. We got Eddie joining with us here. Hello, Eddie. Good to see you here with us. Joining us from North Alabama, right up on top of Sand Mountain. All right. Awesome. And hello, B. Witten. Hello from sunny Eastern Ontario. Awesome. Great to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for jumping into the conversation. I see Janet's here as well, too. Right on. Excellent. Let's see here. Leslie was in the conversation saying, greetings from 8,000 feet, Colorado Rockies. Yes, that's way up there. That kind of sounds like around our good friend Scott's area, neck of the woods, I guess you would say, right? So excellent. Hopefully you got some good garden questions for him. He'll really know what to tell you there, being in the similar growing areas there. Coach Chavi, awesome. Great to have you here with us. Thank you. Always great to see you, as well as Riz. Thank you so much for joining with us here. Riz joining us from India. So thank you so much for, I'm not even sure what time it is there, but thank you for spending your time here and coming and hanging out with us, as well as our good friend Tody from Simplify Gardening. Thank you, Tody, for hanging out with me a little bit earlier. Really appreciate the conversation, and great to have you here on the show as well, too. Thank you so much for being here. And let's see who else we got joining with us. Of course, we've got our friend Bowtie, David from Bowtie Life in the Garden, Triple G Global Gardeners. And he's joining us from the Emerald Coast of Florida, Panhandle. 73 degrees. Oh my! I know we've had it kind of warm here. It's in like the mid 60s for us here, so it's felt like it's really warm for us right now. 73. That's really nice. It's overcast after inches of rain this morning. Ooh, nice. We got LGG Love joining us. Hello. So great to have you here with us on the conversation. Thank you so much for being here. And look at Look to Nature Homestead. Awesome. Great to have you here with us today as well, too. We've got Connie joining us right on. And she says, I can't believe I caught alive. Oh, yes. Well, it's awesome to have you here joining with us for sure. That's really great to have you. And let's see here. Who else we got in the conversation? Sean the gardener. Awesome to have you here joining us from Cornwall, UK. Great to see you here as well as Val. Val, thank you so much again. And says hi from the high desert of northern Arizona. Happy Sunday. Growing beets, a few carrots, asparagus is trying to come up. Excellent. Yeah, I wish I had asparagus, man. That stuff's so good. And I guess it really, like all the other stuff coming up in the spring, it's really cool to see those little asparagus spikes popping up as well. Let's see, Shavi says, doing some herb and flower seeds right now, a bit late, but getting those going. Awesome. Excellent. And Tony joining us from South Wales, UK. And he says it's crappy weather as usual. It's something you're used to, I suppose, right? Excellent. Sandra from Indianapolis. Thank you for being here. Seeding and sowing with Sandra. Excellent. Thank you for being here. Thanks for joining with us today. We see Serena in the conversation. So new seeds are sprouting. Peppers, still waiting for the African Nunum. Basil, only 1 out of 10 basil seeds has sprouted. Oh, well, hopefully the rest will be coming up for you as well here real soon. And Sean the gardener says, growing onions, dahlias, ranunculus, carrots, shallots, tomatoes, etc. All sorts of really, really good stuff there growing in the garden for sure, right? Excellent. Let's see here. Let's make sure we don't miss anybody. We got Feeding Fred. Hello. Good to see you. As well as our friend Big Will Dog, who joined with us on our community show yesterday. What is up, everyone? A decent sunny day here in Indianapolis. Excellent. Great for filming videos. Yeah, get out, make some videos. That's for sure, right? Right on, everybody. Thank you all so much for being here. Thanks for jumping in and letting us know you are here for our roll call. So thank you, everybody. But now it's time for us to move on today. We've got a really great segment from our good friend Mark in the garden. Be right back around. And we got Scott coming up here just a little bit later as well. Definitely drop in those questions for him as well. So we'll see you all in just a minute.
Hey guys, I'm Mark Boucher Colbert, NBC, and you're in the garden with NBC. Welcome to another episode. We're here on a rainy day in Portland, Oregon, and I got some inspiration for this part of In the Garden with NBC from this lettuce. Have a look at that just for a second. I mean, it's a full-on baby head of lettuce, but look at what it's growing in. It was growing in a cell tray with about 2 by 2 by 2 inches of soil, maybe even less, 1.5 by 1.5 by 2 inches of soil. That's not a lot of soil. And this little lettuce, I got 2 of them here. They inspired me. I'm going to transplant them out, but look at that. That's pretty much a little tiny mini salad right there, just waiting. They grew in this tiny little amount of space. Guess what? Certain crops don't need that much space, and you can be growing a lot even if you don't have much space. We're going to talk about the magic today of container gardening. Oh, and now, of course, I've got 2 containers here that I didn't manage to pry apart before. Okay, there we go. All right, containers stick together. I'm talking about these black plastic containers. You can transform these into a great garden no matter where you live. If all you have is a big asphalt parking lot, you make your garden out of these things. If all you have is a little balcony, you make your garden out of these things. Now, these things aren't the most attractive. I'm gonna say that right from the start. And they're black and they will heat up in the sun. That's okay. Right out of the gate, we have a few detracting points for these things. but they're cheap and they're almost free. Most of them are free. You can get them from a lot of nurseries. You can get them from your friends who are trying to get rid of them. There's a lot of bigger ones that trees come in. So, you know, if anybody's into tree planting, you can get them from them. People want to get rid of these things. They generally don't want to hang on to them. So you got all different sizes. You know, the standard, let's see, where's my little, I had a gallon size one that's, oh, here it is, right here. That's right in front of me. These weeds are here for a purpose. I'm going to show you something in a minute. Anyway, that's the kind of the standard, the gallon size one. This is probably like more like a 4 gallon. Then you can go up from there. Depending on what you want to grow, depends on the size, of course. But I'm going to start you off with a very easy, very simple, very little soil mix in the container approach. And here's how we're going to do it. If you get containers like this and you plan to fill them up completely with potting soil, you want a high quality potting soil, and that gets expensive. In Portland, I'm paying about $16 a bag for really good high quality potting soil that I know will grow plants really well. And that gets to be a spendy prospect. But our little lettuces here are telling us you don't have to spend that much, because see, they'll grow just fine with 2 to 3 inches of soil. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill this pot with other things that are a lot cheaper, things that are going to break down and compost as the growing season progresses, giving you the option to sort of make your own soil on the lower half while you get your first crop out of the first 3 inches. So I have some really nice compost that I sifted today in here, but I don't want to use it all to fill, right? I don't want to use it all to fill this bucket. So what are some of my other choices? Well, how about these weeds that I weeded out today? This is a lot of some barley that was growing kind of as a temporary cover crop, just a bunch of grassy materials and some annual weeds mixed in there. I'm just gonna start by throwing some of that in the bottom of the pot. Okay, I'm gonna pack it down. Now, I would not do this if I had some invasive materials, especially things that grow from rhizomes, parts of the underground part of the plant. It's actually a stem that can propagate even once it's cut. I'm thinking of like mint, for example. If I knew I had some mint rhizomes, those underground portions, or even some mint stems, the above ground stuff, that can reroot really easily. I wouldn't be putting that in here. These are all annual weeds with some soil attached. Okay, boom. I've got a layer there that I've sort of packed down. Let's see if you can see it. Just a bunch of grasses and stuff, things that I weeded out of the garden today. On top of that, I have a little bit of a complete organic fertilizer here. Every once in a while when I make a layer, I'm just gonna dust a little bit with this stuff. Putting a little dusting. This is gonna help facilitate the breakdown. Now, some of you may have seen a technique similar to this called lasagna gardening, where you're going layer by layer by layer. It often involves using cardboard and stuff, but some of the ideas from lasagna gardening are similar to this. Now, I've also got some wood chips here. These are like arborist wood chips that we had delivered. You can find lots of people with piles of these on the streets. I mean, I guess it depends where you live. At least in Portland you can. People will have a yard, a tree chipping service drop off a big mound, and they do it for free. You get on a list. So you could just go get a shovel or two from your neighbors, or maybe somebody's power company's had to down a tree and has just chipped it all up. Let's just put some wood chips in there. Just gonna keep filling this pot with various things. Okay, we'll put a bunch of wood chips in there. Now, you may have heard that, oh my gosh, wood chips, that's full of carbon, which is true, and that's gonna steal nitrogen from my plants. Well, guess what? Your plants aren't gonna be growing in this. They may go down to get some water, but this is just gonna be composting and just taking up space in the pot. So we put in some wood chips. Again, I'm gonna dust with my fertilizer. This is a complete organic fertilizer I got from a local distributor here in Portland. The numbers are 553, which tells you that it's balanced in terms of nitrogen, phosphorus, and those are the 5s, and then the 3 is the potassium. Refers to the percentage by weight, but basically shows us it's kind of a a balanced organic fertilizer. All right, now I'm gonna look at this. Here's my old weedy pot. I had tried to grow some ginger in this last year. It didn't really work. I haven't dumped it out yet. I'm gonna dump it out right now. It's got a bunch of roots and everything. I'm just gonna break that up. That's gonna be my first layer of soil. Okay, I'm gonna tear those weeds apart. Again, I'm gonna just make sure that they're annual weeds and that they won't be propagating themselves under the soil. I might even leave these guys out because it's getting close to the surface, so I don't want them to regrow. If they get some light, sometimes they'll regrow. So I'm just gonna take those out, leave some of the old soil there, that old potting soil. Okay, let's put a little more fertilizer. Just another little sprinkle. It's gonna be our kind of last sprinkle. Now we're within about 3 inches from the top of the pot. Perfect time to use our compost or our expensive potting soil. Let's fill it up with the good stuff. This has a lot of worms in it, which I'm really happy to see. All right, using our little, I'm gonna plant these lettuces right now, but you could do anything in here that's mostly greens, because we're looking at our shallow rooted greens. Lettuce is a perfect example. Green onions would be perfect, or any other kind of onions. They're pretty shallow rooted. They're not going to demand what's below. They're gonna be happy in that 2 to 3 inches. In the meantime, those wood chips and other things you put in that loose material is going to give this pot excellent drainage. It's also going to make it so it's not killer heavy, right? I can lift this pretty easily, whereas if I had filled it completely with garden soil or with a potting soil, I might be hard pressed. I haven't had to buy a lot of fancy materials. I've made my own compost. I've used a bunch of weeds, and I've used some free wood chips. You know, you can experiment with other materials. Maybe cardboard is something you have. Maybe you can rip up a bunch of cardboard and try that. Maybe there's other kinds of just even sticks that you gathered in the woods that you just break up. It doesn't have to be wood chips. You can get creative, use your own resources, use what's available. The key point is that you can make a container garden anywhere, and you don't need to spend a lot of money to fill the whole pot. You can get much cheaper materials. You can use a little bit of fertilizer to help it start to break down. Over time, the rest of this pot will break down. It may even provide a little bottom heat if you got some of the nitrogen and carbon ratios right, because as compost breaks down, it provides heat, which will filter up. But either way, look, I just gave 2 little lettuces a nice home. They're going to be really happy. They were already showing me they were doing fine in about 2 inches of soil. So now they've got even more room to go wild and get a little bigger. I could just direct seed some lettuces here. You could probably do some radishes and something like this. There's a lot of things you don't need a tremendous soil depth for. And what I'm saying is that you're making your soil as you go. You're providing a couple inches of good stuff at the top, and then you're making your soil as you go. Of course, it will start to collapse a little bit as the composting process happens down here, the decomposition, but that's okay. You'll just be able to put some additional materials on top, maybe even some mulch, some stuff that's not broken down yet. And there you have it. This is a way you can be empowered to be gardening no matter where you live. Pretty much, you can find an old plastic container. You don't have one of these? Drill some holes in a bucket, an old bucket. Just get creative. I've seen people use drawers from old furniture, or whatever. You can repurpose and recycle a lot of things. I am just saying that you can get these plastic pots in various sizes, often for free, from your local nursery, or like I said, from maybe a tree planting outfit. Maybe your gardener neighbor who has a ton of them wants to get rid of them, and you can do any size. Just adjust the proportions. Like in a 1-gallon pot, I could grow a really great head of lettuce. I mean, it would be 2 to 3 times as big as these guys. These guys were already big, growing in just a tiny little cell. So I hope this just gives you permission to get gardening under any conditions, and maybe get more creative with certain things. You may find you're lacking space in your garden for all the things you want to grow. Well, you can take your whole lettuce crop and just move it into containers on any hard surface, and it'll just be as happy as it would be in your garden. because it really doesn't need a great depth of soil to thrive. You're going to have to water this more often. Yes, you may have to tend it. It might be easier to tend, actually. You could bring them up higher so you can be more comfortable in terms of getting to it. There's a lot of advantages to containers. All you need is 2 to 3 inches of soil, of good stuff on the top. Fill the rest with whatever you have. Add a little organic fertilizer to help it break down, and you're gardening. You're on your way. So I hope that's inspirational. I'm going to be doing a lot of this year. I love just using these shallow soil layers. I'll put 2 to 3 inches of soil on top of compost piles, whatever. And then I'm planting right into it, even if the stuff's not broken down. Having great success. And I'm hoping you have that same success this year in your garden. Hey, I'll see you next time in the Garden with MBC.
Ivory Organic was founded on the gardening concept of whitewashing, simply lightening your plants to better tolerate weather extremes, transplant shock, and so much more. Such a valuable gardening practice that farmers have been doing it since BC times. However, in recent years, most research has been caring for plants and trees using latex and tar-based products which are designed to last 100 years but fall off your plants within 1 to 2 years as your plants grow, contaminating your garden soil indefinitely. Available in colors white or more natural looking colors such as brown, green, gray, and grayish. Ivory Organic has 2 general categories of whitewash products. The 3-in-1 Plant Guard, which includes 7 natural oils including castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint, which offer insect and rodent repellent protection, and the Whitewash Oil Free formula. Both products also have diatomaceous earth in the base ingredients, which naturally offer some insect repellent protection too. As always, keep growing with Ivory Organics, and wishing you all happy gardening.
All right. Here we are back at it again. And thank you to Mr. MBC, Mark Boucher Colbert, for his really great In the Garden segment there, talking about containers and all of that. Thank you so much. And what we had going on last week on the show, real quick here before we get moving on here, we got Gardener Scott waiting in the wings. So I hope you all have your gardening questions ready to go. Start dropping those into the conversation there so that we can get those asked of our good friend Gardener Scott here in just a minute. But last week, real quick, I want to just go over, we had our good friend Nate Murray from Garden Like a Viking on. Yep, that's right. Nate Murray from Garden Like a Viking, as well as Amy from the Hobby Homestead joined us for Are You Following Me as well last Saturday. In fact, last Saturday we did kind of a double header. In fact, I was on Nate's channel with him to talk all about some seed starting and all sorts of that other things as well too. And then Nate came and hopped over onto our show afterwards, and we had him on our show. So it was a really fun day last Saturday. So if you didn't get a chance to go check that out, go back and check that out. And last Sunday too, for our Sunday edition of the show, was our Let's Get Growing 200th episode. Can you believe that? 200 already. And we had our good friend Wendy Fan joining with us on the show. Wendy was our very first guest. She was on our 100th episode and came to celebrate our 200th episode with us last Sunday as well too. It was really fun. I can't believe it, 200 already. It just seems like yesterday we were just getting this whole thing started up, but look where we've gone since then too. I mean, 200 episodes, just hundreds of great fun gardening interviews with all sorts of great garden communicators throughout the gardening community throughout these 200 episodes. So this has been quite a fun gardening adventure for sure. And as we mentioned again too, we are 3 days now. We do have the green room on Monday evening, and last Monday we had Habitual Hobbies, who you see in the chat with us today, joining with us last Monday, joining with Natalie and I, from the Fresh Princess, as well as G Mama Grows Hard in the Garden was with us as well too. So it was really fun to meet these two gardeners and hang out with all of you on our green room. So if you didn't get a chance to go check those shows out, definitely go back and check them out. And check out, especially like I said, this Monday show has just really, really been fun. So, all right, everybody. Again, like I said, I hope you all got your gardening questions all ready to go because it's time for Gardner Scott. All right. Without further ado, here is our good friend Scott Wilson from the Gardner Scott channel, joining right here with us live to answer all of your gardening questions. Thanks, Scott. How are you doing?
Good to see you, Enoch.
Yeah. It's great to have you back on the show with us again already. Like I always say, it just seems like yesterday, but here we are again.
Yes, but it's a whole month gone by.
I know. And I was just mentioning there too that I was on Garden Like a Viking this last Saturday myself and everything, but you're having a busy gardening talk weekend of your own. I know we do 3 days around here, but it looks like you're on a 3-day roll yourself.
Yeah.
You were on with Nate Garden Like a Viking yesterday, weren't you?
Yeah, Garden Like a Viking with Nate yesterday, with you today, and then my show tomorrow. So
I know, look at that.
I haven't been this busy with live streams in a while.
I know, that's great. Awesome, man. So how did the conversation go yesterday? What'd you all talk about on Nate's channel yesterday?
Good. Yeah, we talked a lot of different stuff. We talked about AI. We talked about philosophies of our basic gardening, because he and I actually have very similar philosophies.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about YouTube, and then of course just bounced back and forth with gardening stuff.
Yeah, it's great. I had really enjoyed our conversation that we had last week as well too. It was really fun. For everybody in the audience though too, if you didn't get a chance to check out Scott on the Gardening Like Viking channel, I've got a link to that down below in the description, so you can go check that out as well too. Right on. Excellent. So that must have been fun, and you're having a fun weekend talking all about gardening. Here we are. We're going to talk a bunch about gardening too, but let's start off with how things been going since we saw you last time. I know it's, I mean, if the picture behind you represents anything that's going on today, it's probably still pretty cold up there, huh?
Well, no, quite the opposite actually. So this last month we have been enjoying record-setting heat. And I've been outside almost every day getting stuff done. I've made some videos on my channel that I'm walking around in my garden at the end of February and beginning of March like it's April or May. I mean, it's crazy weather. And so, yeah, the picture behind me I actually took yesterday.
Okay.
Because we had 60-degree weather, 65-degree weather for like almost 3 weeks in a row. Yesterday overnight we had snow. I got about 4 inches. In town got about 6 inches, and today it's all gone. That's the way the weather here is in Colorado. And we're warming right back up into the 60s and low 70s for this next week. So it's just crazy. Warm. 1 day of snow and cold, and then warm again. So I'm actually getting a lot done outside.
Yeah. Well, that's good that you're able to get a lot of things done. That's for sure. But the up and down weather really can really confuse some plants and things that are trying to grow in your garden, right? You know, I got all these spring flowers and things that are popping up because we've had a couple of these warm spells as well too. But then it starts to freeze right after that as well, which kind of creates a little bit of stress for them a bit.
Yeah, the plants are definitely confused. I've got my daffodils and tulips that are coming up, a few of the hyacinth. I don't have any flowers yet, but my friends in town all have blankets of spring flowers. And, you know, I'm a little higher elevation than the Colorado Springs cityplex.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. The plants that would normally just now be starting are already blooming, and a lot of trees are even beginning to leaf out. So we're all worried that we're going to get a severe freeze, which would not be unusual, and really do some heavy kill.
Yeah. Again, so yeah, that's little tough to deal with at this time of year in a lot of different climates because it's just so back and forth, which I expect we're having a couple of warm days ourselves right now, but again, I see in the forecast it's going to dip right back down again. So no fun really in the long run when it comes to trying to figure that out. But at the same time, it's really great that we can get out and at least do some things. What are some of the chores you're trying to get done at this time of year?
Well, so normally at this time of year, into February, beginning of March, I'm just pruning my trees. The ground is still too frozen to do anything in the soil. None of the plants would normally be waking up. And so I would just be starting the cleanup of my garden because I leave all my perennial flowers in place as a seed source for birds. I leave all my grasses in place also as cover for a lot of the predatory insects that might overwinter in grasses and herbs. But because everything is waking up, I've been cleaning up my garden because any of those insects that might have overwintered are already starting to move about the garden. So I have a completely cleaned up garden, which wouldn't normally happen for another 4 to 6 weeks.
Way ahead of everything. That's really, I guess, a really good thing about that, though, too, about having the weather be so different than what you're used to, in a sense, on the warm side, for sure, right? Let's see here.
But it's been dry too. Until we got this last storm, which dropped some good snow in the mountains. We have the lowest snowpack in the Rockies ever recorded. We're basically already in a drought, and we're looking at severe drought conditions moving into the summer. So a little bit of snow, even though it isn't a lot and it's very seldom, is very welcome.
Yeah. Let's see here. David from Bowtie was asking right along this lines here. Says, I know you're in mid-planning mode. What is your next major project we don't know about to add something to your garden this year?
Yeah, so my next big project...
I don't know if he's going to give away secrets.
Yeah, no secret. And so Dave and most of the followers of my channel know that I've been working on my walled garden, and we'll be putting some plants in there. But my big project is actually working with a friend in town to create a brand new garden. So I'm finishing the major construction in my garden and simultaneously starting a brand new garden that's on a hill. So we're going to have to do some terracing. We're going to be putting in some trees and complete new beds. So I'll be doing some videos on that. But that's, I guess I can't get enough of gardening, so I got to do twice as much to get the same enjoyment.
I know. I do have an outside of my own home project with another friend of mine, and we've done it over the last few years. We basically took his front yard, and we got like two 20 by 40 foot plots that we kind of placed throughout his yard and everything. We've grown out of it in the last couple of years. Last year, not so much, but this year he's like, man, I really want to do more this year. We got to get some more things going on and everything. So now I got to get over there this week and everything and start getting some of that stuff done as well too, to help him get his garden growing the way he wants to this year and everything too. So that's kind of my outside of my own garden project as well too. But what you're doing sounds kind of fun.
Oh yeah, that's the part of gardening I like best. One reason I have such a big garden and so many different things going on is because that's what I enjoy most, is coming up with the vision, putting the plan together, then do the build, and then standing back and just enjoying it all. And so if I don't actually have something that I'm building and creating and dreaming about, I need to seek it out. And so that's a big catalyst for why I'm doing this new garden in town, because the major construction in my garden, I've been here 6 years now, going on 7 later this summer, and I've been building the whole time, and the major construction is essentially done. So in my garden, I can focus on just putting the plants in. So I have a ton of flower seeds that are started right now in my basement that I'll be adding to my garden. And because the major construction is complete, I can move on to someplace else to start doing the major construction of a garden.
Yeah, that's great. And then again, too, getting to share that with other folks, though, too, this other project and everything, too, which is really great. I mean, that's kind of what's really cool about what I get to do with my friend and everything, too, is to share my garden experience, help him along to build a garden that, that he can really enjoy, too. And then that's kind of the real fun of it, too, right? Yeah. Is that you get to see them kind of really, take to the garden space themselves.
Exactly. And encouraging and then seeing that excitement. Absolutely. It's great. And I'm kind of coming full circle because the house I first moved into when we moved to Colorado had a very big slope in the backyard that I built a garden on. Yeah. And now this garden is the same. So I've been moving toward more flat gardening, and now I get to go back to my hill gardening with much more knowledge, and I can do it better this time, and actually make videos and share with people because they've been seeing my flat garden. Well, now I'll be able to talk about how to garden on a slope, and there's a lot of differences.
Yeah, and that's a fun part too, and I like how you mentioned that too, is that you get to take something that you've been learning and now really get to apply it, right? And I think that's one of the fun things is we get to learn about gardening and start getting to know some stuff, and that is that excitement of like, well, okay, now that I'm going to take the knowledge and experience I have and apply it to this and see how well that works and everything too. So that's always fun.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. We had a question in from Val a little bit earlier, said that yesterday, Val watched your live stream with Nate yesterday, right on. Excellent. Yesterday, a person in the chat asked if you recommended a home soil testing kit. Can you repeat what you recommended there?
Yeah, so basically what I said is the basics of like pH testing. And I talked about using the strips that you can get. I was also referring, though I didn't specifically talk about it, the strips where you can measure the nitrogen levels in your soil. And so there isn't a particular kit that I recommend because they're all essentially the same for those basic type of kits. But what I was stressing in particular was testing the pH in the soil, because my soil is alkaline. And when you add organic matter to either acidic soil or to alkaline soil, it buffers it and it brings the pH closer to neutral. So one of the reasons that I have, beyond just a home kit, I actually have an electronic pH monitoring. So, the kind where you take the water and you mix it with the soil and you test the pH. And so I'll do that periodically, because if I see that my pH starts moving out of that roughly neutral range, then it tells me that the organic matter in my soil is less than I prefer. So it's an indicator to amend the beds, because the question came about as a result of talking about amending and the cycle that you get on. So if you do regular amending of your soil, after about 3 or 4 years, you really don't need to amend. You can take a year or two off, but you should test the soil to find out whether you need to amend again. And so I use those basic kits just to kind of tell me that everything looks okay. And then if I'm beginning to be concerned that maybe my nutrient levels are falling because of less organic matter, because my pH is climbing, then I use a professional lab. And so here near me, I've got Colorado State University, and I'll do the soil testing, send it to the lab, and find out just exactly what the nutrients are and whether I need to up the amending to get back to that nutrient range that I'm looking for. So nothing wrong with the soil kits that you can use at home, but generally they don't give you very precise levels of whatever it is you're trying to measure. So the professional analysis really is the best way to give you the exact information that you're looking for.
Excellent. Right on. All right, everybody. Yeah, excellent. Thank you for all the questions, everyone. You're dropping them in. That's perfect. Let's get going, right? Yeah, all right. Let's see here. Habitual Hobbies asks, what are you excited to see or do at Baker Creek next month? You're going to be at the Baker Creek? Is it?
So I don't know. Maybe they have posted something. I don't know. They have invited me to be a speaker at one of their festivals. But what I thought we had agreed on was I was going to be doing the festival at the end of summer. So
Oh,
I'm not planning to be at Baker Creek next month.
okay.
Um, but I'll have to get in touch with them to see if maybe they're passing around information. But I've been there before. I actually have a video on my channel where
Yeah.
I toured Baker Creek and in the Missouri location. They also have a California location. But I toured the Missouri location and talked to a number of different people there and show all the layout. And so I'm anxious to go back, but
Yeah.
it's not next month, as far as I know.
Oh, good. Yeah, yeah. In fact, the end of the year one, did you notice that they've switched it now to, instead of like their fall festival, that they've now, I don't, it's not a renaming, but it's going to be now called the Heirloom Exposition,
Exactly.
as
Yeah.
as they've done in California for the last several years and everything, which they stopped doing last year, and now they're reviving the Heirloom Expo and kind of combining it into their fall festival. So that ought to
And
be
that's
pretty
the
fun.
one that I'm planning to be at.
Oh, excellent. All right on, right on. We'll have to look forward to that there for sure. Maybe catch you while you're there live or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, that's an idea.
Yeah, yeah. All right. We've got Big Will Dog in the soil. Gardner Scott. I started my Snapdragons a bit too early and are now too big for my grow setup. Should I top them or try to get them outside pre-last frost?
I would do both. You could top them. It should make them a little bit bushier. They, will tend to flower over a period of time. So if you lose some of the initial flowers, it's not that big a deal. But yeah, try topping them just to make them last a little bit longer in the pots. And the way our crazy weather has been for so many of us, I would say go ahead and put some outside. I haven't seen my Snapdragons starting to pop up outside yet, but my soil is warmer than it would normally be at this time of year. So if you've got enough and you want to experiment a little bit, I know you like to do some things to see what's
That's
going
right.
on, Will. So do both. And then also I would suggest if you're looking for some experimentation is move them to bigger pots. And one of the things I like to do when I get into that point where I've got too many plants that are not ready to go out yet is I'll leave some in the pots that I have. I'll move some to a bigger pot and then later transplant the two, just so you can see that keeping a plant in a smaller pot will stunt it. And
Yeah.
it's one of those things that sometimes it'll catch up to the plant that's in the bigger pot, but not always. And so
Right.
I always like to do that experiment with different plants just to be able to see why we up pot our plants,
Yeah.
because it makes a difference if you leave a plant in a too small container for too long. And yeah, it's better to put it outside where it might not survive than to keep it in too small a pot where it may be struggling for its whole life.
Yeah, yeah. Again, as Mark was talking about in his segment earlier, there are some that are going to do okay in smaller root spaces and all that,
Yeah.
but a lot of plants really need some good space, and especially in, containers and those sort of things. We've got to be kind of understanding what the variety type or type of plant we're growing and what those roots are going to be requiring, so that we can understand what that limitation of that pot size is going to do to the plant, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. Right on, everybody. We got GG Love here. Scott, are you still showcasing gardens as backgrounds during your lives? Yeah, I see. Again, you always got the nice background in the back there. Your garden, like you said, you took a picture of the other day. But during your live streams, you still showing other folks' gardens?
I've been showing my own garden. I
Yeah.
had done a call out last year and got a dearth of photos. People just stopped sending me their gardens. So I started showing my garden more and more.
Yeah.
But if you want to send me a picture of your garden, you can do it. Send it to gardnerscott@gardnerscott.com. The key is that I need permission from you to use that photo in my live stream so that we don't run into any copyright issues. And then tell me a little bit about the photo, make sure it's in landscape mode. And I'm glad to showcase pictures. We've just gotten away from it because no one's been sending me the pictures of their garden, particularly during winter. People just think snow covers everything, but I like looking at winter gardens and early spring gardens.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some of the best pictures or some nice snowy garden spaces that you can tell, right? For sure. All right, excellent. Yeah, so send in some pictures, give some permission with it, landscape mode, and you might just see one of your pictures on Gardener Scott's live stream. Right on. Let's see here. Jay in the conversation asking, is Gardener Scott new location garden for himself or another person? Oh,
yeah, it's another person's house and backyard, and it'll be setting it up for them.
Excellent. Right on. Let's see here. Chavi in the conversation as well too says, I see the green stock in the background. Is there anything that has surprised you in a smaller container?
And so, yeah, that's a good question because I do a lot of different container gardening in pots and a lot in green stocks. And so I've been doing it long enough that I've seen a lot. So, the surprise factor is lessened a little bit. But one of the things, particularly talking about the green stock and smaller containers, in an area like mine in Colorado, where normally we have pretty severe winters, zone 5, container gardening becomes much more challenging. If you try to grow something in a small container, most of the time it's not going to survive the winter. Even if it is suitable for the zone, the soil just freezes, it gets too cold, too dry, and it's very difficult to keep small container plants growing outside during the winter. And I've experimented with that with the green stock, and sure enough, like strawberries, you can't keep strawberries alive in a small container in Colorado over the winter. It's just that simple. Even if it's a green stock, even if you think it is going to happen and you do everything right, the weather just doesn't cooperate. Now this year, maybe it might have worked because we've had such a warm winter, but that was the I guess the last surprise I had, was hoping and expecting that by doing everything right, that the plants would survive in a small container. They never have before. And even when you try to do things differently, unless they're covered or put into a sheltered area, it's really difficult. But big pots, that extra soil that you have in a big pot compared to a small pot makes all the difference. So I've got, blueberries, I've got thyme, I've got herbs of all types, chives. I've got a lot of those in bigger pots, and they overwinter just fine. So size does make a difference when it comes to the pots.
Yeah, definitely. And again, too, even during the growing season and everything, one of the things like with containers too, back to the idea of what the size of or the type of plant you're trying to grow, especially fruiting things as well, right? Say you want a big size container for something that's going to be producing like larger fruits and things, right? And that sort of stuff. So you don't want to be trying to keep them into smaller containers because it's just not going to really give it that opportunity to be able to produce as well.
Yeah, but you can use it to your advantage. I put some columnar apple trees in some big pots, and they actually did very well, except the deer came and ate them all. So I just had to finish that project. But, kind of like what Mark was talking about and what I've been talking about, the size of the pot makes a difference when the roots start being restricted. And so if you're growing a fruit tree or a fruit bush, one way to keep it small is to prune it. And another way to keep it small is to put it in a pot where it doesn't have a lot of room to grow. And so by restricting the roots, you can restrict the size of a plant.
Yeah, that's definitely the case for all of my container trees that I have out there as well too. I got my peach tree. It's gotten to be about a certain size, and we'll prune it and do some things as it grows its new branches and things during the year and everything. But it doesn't get too much bigger than that because of that pot size. I've been kind of toying with the idea of maybe up potting it and seeing what happens this next year as well too. But but it does produce really well, and it's really kind of surprising about how well some fruit trees will do in containers.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. I do espalier, where I'll prune the trees to stay small, and they'll still produce good fruit. And it's the same, for centuries, we've been growing fruit trees in pots, and they do just fine.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's see here. Let's get another question in here. Again, everybody, thank you for your questions. Keep popping those in here. This is a great opportunity to get some knowledge about what you got coming up here in your growing season. Nope is in the conversation. It says, about time, my favorite herb. I have a hard time growing it. Seems like it gets too dry, or I overwater and get root rot. My older plant is alive, but not a lot of leaves. Any tips for growing thyme?
Yeah, so thyme is one of those plants that is extremely durable. And I have one of my beds is the concrete block beds.
Mm-hmm.
And the concrete building blocks that are roughly 8 inches wide and 16 inches long, and they have the two holes in them. The center of those blocks are hollow, and I have thyme growing in those basically 6x6 openings, and often forget to water it, and it just keeps coming back every year and keeps getting bigger every year. I've got it in a couple different areas. So thyme is one of those kind of plants that if you can get it established, you can ignore it and put it in a terrible spot, and it's still going to keep growing. The issue, as you pointed out, is like many of us, we baby our smaller plants, and overwatering, particularly with something like thyme. A lot of Mediterranean plants that we're growing, like lavender and rosemary and thyme, they come primarily from a region that is dry and hot and not particularly wet. And so if we try to baby those plants with too much care, then often the plants just don't do well. So find a spot that gets full sun with well-draining soil, and don't overdo it. Just water it occasionally. Try to keep the soil moist during the first 6 months to year, but definitely don't saturate the soil, and mulch around it. My thyme does better when there's mulch. I primarily use wood chip mulch in most of the areas, but even in those concrete blocks, there's no mulch. It's growing in the middle of concrete, and it's still going. You just need to recognize that it doesn't need a lot of care, and it will grow okay. And then cut off those branches. It's normal over winter for some of those branches, those older branches, to dry out. Go ahead and prune off those branches to give new growth space, and it should be okay. Once it gets established, it's really easy to grow.
Yeah, that's what I found. Really kind of similar with a lot of herbs, right? Pretty hardy plants, then can take a bit. Rosemary and things like that, right?
Oh yeah. And that's one reason why I like growing them in my garden, because talking about the drought conditions that we've been having, and we rarely get rainfall. So if I'm not watering my plants, they don't get water. And I'll water my herbs even in the peak of summer here in Colorado once a week. Once they get established, you can pretty much abuse them, and they'll keep coming back. Sage is another one that does real well along those lines, and I have all that in the same bed.
Yeah, grow them herbs for sure, definitely.
And so one tip, because this is the approach I take, is to start them indoors, to actually grow them in a pot and wait until they are 6 inches high at least, and then transplant them. Trying to start thyme from seed outside is a little more challenging. So start with a plant, but again, don't baby the plant too much when it's a seedling.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. Leslie's in the conversation here asking, greetings from Jeffco.
That's Jefferson County. That's up by Denver.
Awesome. I was wondering there. I was going to say, it has to be near you. Let's say, as I see 8,000 feet. We have very high ozone days, which is damaging to people, pets, and plants. Stippled leaves, bronzing, and leaf curl on beans and potatoes. Any mitigation tips?
Yeah, it's hard to mitigate, when you've got air pollution. I think were we talking about smoke a couple of months ago?
Oh yeah,
But all those things, when you've got ozone, pollution, smoke, dust, anything that's in the air that's going to interfere with the normal transpiration process and
yeah,
the photosynthesis process, the plants are going to suffer. And so one of the things that you can do periodically is just kind of spray off your plants, just to try to keep, if the environment around the plant is a little more humid and any residue that might be on the leaves are washed off, the plant can recover. But when you start seeing dieback or issues with the plants, depending on the plants, and most plants you can just prune off those damaged leaves, because when a leaf curl starts, really it's not contributing much to the plant anymore. And when one of the first things that happens when the leaf starts dying is that the edges will start browning. The plant will often try to recover that, so they're sending a lot of energy up to some of those damaged areas. If you can prune off those damaged areas, now that energy goes to new growth, and hopefully that new growth is emerging in better conditions where you don't have those air problems that would be affecting the leaves.
yeah. Awesome, excellent. Some good advice. That's there, right? There, local advice too. Some of your best gardening advice you can get. Some good local stuff as well to help you out.
We don't have as big an issue here in where I'm at.
No.
No.
Excellent.
Luckily.
Oh wait, no, we already had that one. Okay, I didn't get that one off of there. Let's see. Let's get in here with. I'm gonna make sure that's a question. Let's see. Let's find a question here. All right. Look to Nature Homestead. I tried getting a jump start on a royalty raspberry bare root start from TSC, and it's flowering already, bushing up nicely, but only 18 inches tall. How warm must the soil be before you can plant berry bushes out?
Yeah, so raspberries are actually very durable. I will often dig up and transplant my raspberries as soon as my soil thaws, because I'm trying to clean up my raspberry patch and keep it from spreading too much. So I'm digging and either potting up or moving to another raspberry area that I have. And that's happening when the soil is still 50 degrees Fahrenheit, roughly. And so I would say that's a minimum. They can handle colder than that, but the transplanting when it's colder than that might end up shocking a plant that you have that is in a pot. But if the forecast looks good, and if you've got a minimum of 50, then you should be able to put it outside without too much. I would mulch, particularly if you see that cold weather is coming, to try to keep that soil as warm as possible after it's warmed up. But the thing about the flowers on fruiting plants, before you put them out, I recommend pinching off those flowers, because again, the energy for the plant is going into the flowers, which may be one reason why it's only 18 inches tall. So pinch off the flowers, let the energy go into the growth of the plant. And then right after transplanting, the same thing for the first month or so, pinch off the flowers so the roots get a little more established. And then hopefully by the end of the season, you can have some raspberries.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know we had a couple of folks on yesterday showing us their indoor seeds or seedlings that they have and all of that. You got some indoor stuff growing yet? You getting things started up
Yeah,
at all?
primarily flowers. This week my focus is on peppers. In about 2 weeks, I'll be shifting to tomatoes. But I've got 4 trays. So I've got a total now of over 200 different flowers that I've started. The ones that are doing the best right now are daisies. So I've got daisies. I've got a ton of native plants. I've got things like calendula and echinacea and rudbeckia. And so that's where I'm at right now, because I like, kind of like we were just talking about with the transplanting and the size of the thyme plant. I like to have my flower plants a little bit bigger when I put them out, just because I never know what my spring weather is going to look like. And so I may be able to put them in early. I may have to put them in a little bit later, but I want to have a nice, robust plant with a good root system in the pot when I do transplanting. And a lot of the flowers I'm growing are going to that new garden, and a lot of them are coming into my own garden. So I'll be doing the vegetable garden starts here. Actually, tomorrow is my plan to start my peppers.
So when you're doing your indoor seed starting and all of that too, what are kind of some of your soil recommendations? Do you mix any of your own soils up? Do you purchase certain types? Or if so, what would be some recommendations there? Because we don't want to really be using outdoor soil on in our indoor plant starts, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I make all of my own soil starter or seed starter mix and potting mix, and definitely don't do anything from outside. You could be bringing in some harmful pathogens or viruses or bacteria or fungi, all of which might harm your seedlings. And so I've got a bunch of videos because I have different recipes for different things. My basic seed starter mix is basically just peat moss and perlite. And then for up potting, when I make my potting mix, I'll then add compost and some slow release organic fertilizer. And I'll often use vermiculite if it's something where I want a little bit extra moisture to be held within the soil. And I like doing the two different types of mixes. And so I did experiment a little bit. I've done it before, and I just kind of needed to revisit it, where I took some of my potting mix and started the seeds in the potting mix, and they are much slower to grow than the ones that are growing in a nice loose peat moss and perlite. I also use coco coir and perlite. So having that loose material makes a big difference when starting the seeds, and they don't need any nutrients. In fact, too many nutrients can actually slow the growth.
That's kind of what I was going to ask. Do you think that maybe that's kind of the deal with the potting soil? Is it that as well? It's just kind of throwing too much at a young seedling?
Exactly. It's chunkier, so the roots have a harder time to grow. It's got more nutrients in it, so the seedling's a little overwhelmed. And it's one of those things that you got to see. That's why I do it periodically, just to remind myself. But the ones that are doing the best, I've started the daisies in particular in a bigger pot. So I've got the trays, the 72 cell trays that I've used a couple different types just as part of that experiment. But then I've got some bigger 3-inch plastic containers for the daisy seeds that I started. And what I did is I put 3/4 of that pot with the potting soil, the lower 3/4, and the top 1/4, I use my seed starter mix. And that works incredibly well because the seedling gets started in that top inch or so of the medium, and then starts growing. And then by the time it's got 2 or 3 sets of leaves, the roots are hitting that potting soil. And that's about the time I would be transplanting anyway. And so that's kind of a one-stop shop where if you've got the space to start in a bigger pot and mix those two different types, it really does better. So the plants that are doing best for me right now are in those bigger pots, and I'm just waiting to see.
So just kind of similar to what Mark was saying, kind of a layering kind of in a way, right?
Exactly. And so I did double seeds. That's why I've got so many seeds, because I'm expecting half of them to not do as well. But if they recover fine, then I'll have extra plants to have at my garden club plant sale and to give to my friends and to put throughout my garden. So
Yeah.
It's, this is one of those things about gardening that's, part of my philosophy is I will do things that I expect to fail.
Yeah.
Just because each time I learn something new about why it didn't work. And I enjoy that. That's one of those reasons why, I can talk so much about so many things is because
Yeah.
I've killed a lot of plants by doing it wrong, either by
That's
accident
right.
or on purpose.
I always love that. I always love that bit of beginner gardener advice is don't be afraid to kill some plants,
Yeah.
and learn through that process because, uh, I, I remember first being a gardener too, and it's like we want everything to survive, and anything that's growing is this valuable thing. And in the long run, if we're really looking for what's going to work for us in the long run, how we're going to be able to really produce for ourselves and stuff, we got to kind of run through some of these experiments, right?
Exactly. And my focus this time, expecting it to fail, of
Hmm.
course, is to try to figure out how can I save the plants? Because exactly to your point, I don't like killing plants. So if I can
Yeah,
learn a new method to save them if I see
yeah.
something going wrong, then it's worth the potential loss of plants at some point.
Yeah, exactly. Right on. And one more thing, though, too, like on indoor seed starting as well, too. A lot of us, again, if you're indoors, are using lights, right? Any sort of kind of advice or tips on the idea of uh, what type of lights, how to use them to get the best seed starts?
Yeah, you definitely need extra light,
Mhm.
unless you live in a very sunny region with a lot of warmth. Putting your young seedlings on a windowsill is probably not going to be enough light or warm enough. So starting indoors in a secluded, sheltered room of some type, and then the lights really aren't that big a deal. Now you
Mhm.
can buy some specific lights for your seedlings.
Yeah.
They tend to be very expensive.
Yeah.
I pretty much, for the decades I've been starting my own seeds, I just use shop lights that you buy at Lowe's or Home Depot. And I still have my fluorescent tube lights that I use. I use a lot of LED lights now because that's all you can get is LED lights. But they're
Right.
all just basic, cheap shop lights. They're not powerful. They don't have the strength that some of those plant growing lights have. So they need to be closer to the plants. And so just have a cheap light and put it 2 or 3 inches
Yeah.
above the plant. And that's often all the plant needs. And then as the plant grows, you just raise the light. You
Yeah.
can certainly spend $1,000 on an LED setup that allows you to change the intensity of the light as the plants grow. And yeah, I have a light like that, but I really
Mhm.
don't use it that often because I find it easier just
Yeah.
to use the 4 foot wide fluorescent lights that I can raise up and down as the plants grow.
Yeah, that really is the key though, right? As we'll see a lot of folks who are just getting started and I'll see them out in the groups out there showing pictures of their little seedlings and they're like this tall and
Yeah.
lanky or leggy as we call them and all of that. And that's really, really kind of going to be the primary issue there, right?
Yeah, the plants talk to us. And
Yeah.
if the plant is tall and spindly when it's still very, very young, it's telling you it's not getting enough light. And
Yeah.
so whatever light you're using, you need to get closer to those leaves. And you can often recover if you recognize it's getting leggy early on. But there is a point
Yeah.
where if you wait too long and the plant gets too spindly, it may never fully recover.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, and, gotta restart. I usually recommend folks when they get too leggy, it's like, hurry up, and just restart, get those
Yeah,
lights
exactly.
down low." And a great thing with, like, LED and even not so even so much with, like, the fluorescents as we used to use, I've been switching most of mine over to because I use the long 4-foot, shop light things on a kind of a under a grow table that I have, and we've switched most of them over to LED. But even with the fluorescents that we were using before, there isn't much heat coming off
Right.
of these lights. So and I think that might be a primary worry to a lot of folks is they're worried about getting those lights down there real close. But you can get those lights pretty darn close to those plants and really give them that strength of light, because that's what they're really getting when they're close like that, because the light will deplete, right, as it's the further away it is.
And understanding the type of light you have, because you're exactly right. That's why you can get away with it with fluorescence and most LEDs, is to put them very close to the plant. But if you're using one of those high intensity grow lights, it's probably putting off a lot of heat. And if you start off with that type of light 2 inches above your seedlings, you're going to fry them. So you do need to understand the different types of lights and which ones you have. And then, because of that heat factor, make sure that it's at an appropriate height above the plant.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's see here. Let's jump back into some questions. Thanks everybody for popping in these awesome questions for us today. Let's see here. Shawnee was in a little earlier asking, what would you like to see at your local farmer's market? Oh, farmer's market question. Here we go.
Interesting.
It's about time to start thinking about those, as they'll be popping up here real soon.
Yeah. So what I would like to see, just because I did it. So when I was at the school garden, we would grow literally a ton of food a year, and we would sell it at, not all of it, most of it went into the school kitchen, but we would sell some at the farmer's market. And a good gardener friend of mine, we would partner and work together. And he has also done that for a number of years, where he's just got a big backyard and takes his extra stuff and puts it at the farmer's market. So that's what I would like to see, is just local gardeners who have enough to sell at a farmer's market. Because since I left and since he left, basically all our farmers markets are the big farms, and you don't have that small independent gardener that's fun to talk to at a farmer's market. So I'd love to see the more independent growers, because they're great to talk to. And if you're talking to a big farmer, first off, the people selling might not even be the grower. It might just be some of their staff, and they trucked it all in for a farmer's market. But if you're talking to someone who actually grew the stuff themselves, you can ask some of those important questions, like, is this an open pollinated plant that I can save the seeds from? Is this, been organically grown, or has it been doused with the pesticides? Those are important questions that a lot of people are concerned about. And if you can talk to the person who actually grew it at the farmer's market, everybody tends to have better peace of mind. So that's what I would like to see.
Yeah,
She's probably wondering about the specific produce, but there's always.
I think that's a great idea. Maybe even start a trend of, instead of farmers markets, we start gardeners markets, right? Gardener markets, that sort of thing, where you can get the local people who are growing together and sharing things and again, sharing advice and growing again, because some of your best gardening advice is local advice from your local gardeners who are right there in your neighborhoods growing as well too.
Absolutely.
I did see this here, and to jump back just a second onto what we were talking about. Leggy Starts, Suburban Homestead said, sometimes I will repot those leggy tomatoes and then lower the lights, and that will work too. So some plants like tomatoes though too, which will kind of root up the stock a little bit. We could probably do, we can kind of save those type of plants, right?
Yeah, you can. The thing that I have found, and I've done exactly that, to be able to say this, it takes plant energy for those roots to develop along the stem. And that takes time. And so, yes, you can save those plants. And if those are the only plants you have, go for it. But you're going to lose a week, maybe more, in the timeline of the growth of your tomatoes while those new roots are developing along the stem. And you might be just as fast, like you were saying, to just start a new batch of seeds. And the new ones, if they're started and are stronger, will easily catch up to the ones that had to grow those extra roots because they were buried and they were so leggy, not getting enough light.
Right. Yep. Exactly. And so again, just putting those sort of things into consideration as you're going for it. And yeah, like you said, if they're the only ones you got, though,
Yeah.
and or the that one variety that you just got to have, then those are the only seeds you have left or whatever. Yeah, definitely go for
Yeah.
that for sure. All right, let's see here. Nope, nope, nope. In the comments here asking, my Meyer lemon in a pot is in need of pruning. I have a few branches crossing over, but it also has new growth already going. It's sunny and warm in Las Vegas. Should I wait to prune this winter?
So when it comes to pruning, particularly fruit trees, there are two situations that I usually and a lot of other gardeners will say go ahead and prune. If you have a diseased branch, prune it off. That goes almost without saying. But the other is if it's a branch that's interfering with other branches, then go ahead and prune it off. So if you've got branches that are crossing, now look 3 or 4, 5, 6 months into the future. If they're crossing right now, it's probably going to be more of a problem later on as those branches continue to grow, as the leaves cover the branches, as fruit may set on those branches. And then when you start getting any type of rubbing, you can weaken the branch and, not likely
Mhm.
indoors, but there's the potential for pest or disease issues wherever you have a wound on a tree like that. And so I do that even during the summer. If I have pruned my fruit trees, and I normally do the pruning in winter, but during the middle of the summer, I notice that some of the new branches are interfering with some of the old branches or vice versa. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
still prune during the summer if it looks like it's going to be an issue.
Yeah, yeah. So prune anytime if it's kind of necessary in a sense,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. All right. And let's see here. Jay was asking about do you have any advice for microgreens? You growing any microgreens this year, or I'm sure
Yes,
you
I am,
have,
as a
but
matter of fact. So I've got the tray all ready to go. I've got the seed packets all ready to go. Um, and my son is actually doing a lot of microgreen growing. So we're going to be doing it together.
oh,
And the
nice.
advice is to do it
Just do it.
and
There you go. I
just
love it.
do it. And then take the scientific experimental approach, because one of the things about microgreens is the flavor will change every day. And so,
Mm-hmm.
if you're growing radish or spinach or, sunflower, you can actually do sunflower microgreens. You can do almost anything as a microgreen. After
Yeah.
about 4, 5 days, start tasting it on a daily basis and notice that, so
Yeah.
that as you grow more microgreens, you'll know the sweet spot that you have a particular type of plant and it's best at 5 days. And that's when you harvest it, is at 5 days. So yeah, it's kind of fun to grow and it's fun to go through that. And it's very easy, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not unusual to do a harvest and go, wow, this whole thing tastes terrible. And it's because you waited 2 or 3 days too long.
Yeah. Do you, with your microgreens, use like a soil or a non-soil method at all?
Yeah, so I'll use a soilless mix, similar to my seed starting mix.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
just basic peat moss, cocoa coir, perlite kind of a thing, because they're not going to be growing long enough that they really need any nutrients. They're getting
Yeah.
all of that initial growth from the seed, and so you just need a nice, easy medium that you can keep moist for them to grow, because you're growing a whole bunch of them. Typically, microgreens are going to, quadruple or quintuple the number of seeds that you're putting in a square inch, and so they're growing very close together, and the roots are going to be growing quickly and interfering with each other. So you want a nice, light, well draining kind of medium to grow those in.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah. Got some microgreens for myself started up, so I'm looking forward to those coming up here soon as well too. And like you said, so many different things you could grow for microgreens. It's just you got to
Yeah.
do it. You got to grow them if you haven't tried them yet. It's again something so really simple. It's just one of those really great simple indoor things, and they really are too a great way to kind of get those greens and those things that you want throughout. Like the really harsh part of winter, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I would have done more of the microgreen growing over the winter. But
Mhm.
you can
I
do it
usually
anytime.
do. I usually do, and I'm in a similar position as you. I'm kind of a little bit late to the game as far as what I do normally for my microgreens and stuff, but I got a great setup. I got some new trays and everything that we got set up, and I use kind of these cool tray things I learned from Mark years ago because Mark is a big, huge microgreens person.
Okay.
He grows all sorts of amazing microgreens. So I got a whole new setup kind of thing. So I'm getting them going. But like you said, they work anytime.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Serena asked, "What soil pH be for blackberry bushes?"
So I'm not sure off the top of my head. Near neutral is good. I
Yeah,
tend to get them mixed up with raspberries, but they can handle some slightly alkaline soil. But I'm not sure exactly what they prefer. I just try to get everything in the soil close to neutral, and almost everything does well. So that's what I target. But I don't know exactly what pH a blackberry would do best in.
yeah. But you think you would similar, like you're saying, with raspberries and that sort of stuff as brambles? Are they probably a bit different?
They should be similar, but
Yeah, that's what I was.
that's what I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
There's something in the back of my brain that is saying um, that they're not exactly like raspberries, that they like it a little bit different. But
Yeah.
um, I have
Yeah.
to do a search on that.
All right. All right. I don't know. Did we stump you there? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. I
Excellent.
don't know the exact pH for blackberries. My blackberries are in a pH that's about 6.8, and they seem to be doing okay.
Yeah, it looks like Jay's got some info up here saying slightly acidic soil with an ideal pH range of
Hey, there
5.5
you
to
go.
6.5. That's
Yeah.
pretty close to neutral, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a good range. It's a slightly acidic
Yeah, just
from neutral, but that's good to know. Thank you, Jay.
excellent. Excellent. Let's see here. Leslie was asking, did you use any season extenders to grow okra and sweet potatoes? You use season extenders for anything else at all? But this
And
is a
so
big
last
statement.
year, because I had mentioned that okra in my live stream, and then I think I also mentioned it yesterday with Nate, that I
Mhm.
had a great okra year last year, and with the sweet potatoes the year before. I didn't do anything for the sweet potatoes. I just had a lucky year, and they did pretty well. The okra, I did do a little bit just for a few days early in the season, like hoop and plastic, just to warm up the soil a little bit. I pulled back the mulch in that bed as well, just so that the soil would warm up a little bit faster. But that's it. And then I just started the okra from seed, and I started the sweet potatoes from my own slips, and was lucky that I had a nice long warm season for both of them.
Awesome. Excellent. And Serena was also asking about can nasturtium seeds be planted out now, even though the last frost date is April 15th on average?
Oh yeah, you can always put out seeds early, especially nasturtiums. Nasturtiums require extra handling. If you try to just put a nasturtium seed in the ground, it may not grow. It needs to be scarified, it needs to be abused. And so putting it out before the last frost date, especially if you get a lot of rain and snow and the soil gets really wet, that seed will actually swell up over the period that it's being saturated, and that can actually help it in its germination. So As far as winter sowing goes, nasturtiums are one of those that can actually benefit by being put out too early because they need that extra effort to not be too kind to them.
Yeah, excellent. And you say always, you can always put seeds out early, like in general, right?
Oh yeah, my flower seeds that I want growing in April, also those seeds, I'll broadcast them throughout my garden in November, December, January, and just let them settle in the snow. And when the conditions are right, they'll germinate and start growing. Now, of course, you do run the risk of insects or animals eating those seeds if you put them out extra early. But you always have that problem with seeds in the garden, especially when the animals become more active. But particularly with nasturtiums that need that extra scarification and stratification, it can actually work.
Yeah. But seeds in general are going to sprout and come up as they wish. So if you got some good healthy seeds, right? Some well-stored seeds, that sort of thing like that, they're gonna know when it's time to get going, right?
Well, it's like, if you have a plant in your garden that goes to seed, for instance, onions, I've let onions go. It's a biennial, so it seeds in the second season. I've let my onion plants grow over the winter. The next year they're flowering and seeding, and then I go to collect the seeds, but hundreds of those little seeds fall on the ground. The next year, with no effort from me, I've got 100 onion plants growing because they're going to survive and they're going to overwinter and they're going to germinate when they're ready to germinate. This last year, I had a great cilantro crop. I never put a single cilantro seed in the ground. It was all of the seed from the previous year's plants that had fallen on the ground, and they germinated and started growing as soon as the conditions were right.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Let's see here. And everybody, thank you so much for all of your great questions here for today. Thank you so much. I did see question from Big Will Dog. Do either of you participate in this single seed challenge started by Scott Head, now passed on to Down Home Backyard Gardening?
Yeah, I think I've got four or five videos from each year that I participated in the single seed challenge. And I had Scott on my show talking about it. I've always done that, but I did not know it had been passed down to Down Home Backyard Gardening. So I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. I know that Scott has kind of, not quite retired, but kind of retired in a way from doing his
channel. He had a video a few months ago where he talked about why he's stepping away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think Serena was asking if we were going to have him on the show. We've had him on a couple of times and all of that. I might call him up to check on him and see what's going on and all of that too. But I think he's kind of winding things down a little bit. Yeah, which is good for some folks when it's necessary, like in his case, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. And again, everybody, thank you so much for all of your great questions today. Just really awesome questions for Scott. And real quick here, though, before we get moving on and everything, I want to talk about, everybody knows, as we mentioned earlier, too, Scott will be on tomorrow morning on his live stream. I think it's about, and I always got to remember to write this down, but I think it's 8 a.m. Pacific time, right? Yes, 8 a.m. Pacific time, so that'd be 11 a.m. for you on the East Coast as well, too. But if you didn't get any questions answered or you're thinking of questions right now and it's a little late, definitely drop in on Scott's live stream tomorrow morning and get your questions answered there as well, too. And we definitely have links also down below to his channel there. If you haven't had a chance to go over and subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can be notified of those live streams when they come out. And how about what you got coming up for your live stream tomorrow? Do you have an idea of what
you're talking about? Seeds. And seed options for getting your seeds beyond just the seed packet that you see at the big box store. So it's not too late, even though many of us are already in springtime when we shouldn't be. It's still time to start thinking about seeds if you haven't got your seeds yet. So that's what I'll be talking about.
Excellent. Awesome. So some great, again, good time to be thinking about all of that. So probably a really great opportunity for everybody as you're getting and thinking about all of your seeds starting to go and join Scott tomorrow for his live stream. Tell us a little bit about your last live stream. You talked about mulch in the garden.
Yeah. So just went through the basics of all the different types of mulch, how to use mulch, when to rake away the mulch, like I was talking earlier, we're trying to get the soil temperature up, and both the pros and the cons. I actually talked about some of the problems if you use mulch in an area that you maybe shouldn't have used that type of mulch. So an hour and a half of
mulch talk. I mean, dig deep into some mulch for sure on that last live stream. If you didn't get a chance to go check that out, again, you can find that at Gardener Scott's channel on his live tab there. You'll be able to find that last live stream as well too. And also videos. You got videos coming up. Your last video was, do you need a garden plan?
Yes. So I've got a bunch of videos coming up. A lot of the ones I'm doing right now are multi-week, and so I'm trying to figure out just exactly when they're going to be put into play, because they're like with seeds and seed starting and showing examples of that. So there'll be some seed videos coming up. There'll be some planting videos coming up, and I'll actually be planning within the next couple of weeks. I don't have it programmed specifically yet, but this new garden I was talking about, I'll be walking through that garden and I'll be talking about, before anything is in place, the kind of stuff that we're thinking about of how to deal with this space and where we're going to put beds and where we're going to figure out the types of growing in that whole new area. So that'll be coming as well.
Excellent. Right on. So lots of great things to be looking at. I was actually noticing one of your previous videos too is a garden tour and garden worries. What's something we'd be worried about?
Well, and so many of us in the United States in particular have just crazy weather. You know, the East Coast a week ago got slammed by record snow. And at the same time, like we started the show with today, the rest of us are having drought and incredibly high temperatures. And so the plants just don't know what to do. They're not in a normal springtime. And so that's the worry, is take a look at your garden and figure out what's happening with your plants, and then be ready for what you might need to do in the weeks and months ahead as the plants try to recover from either being buried under 30 inches of snow or having to grow a month earlier than normal. You know, these are all issues that if we don't think about ahead of time, we suddenly wonder, why did all our plants die? Or why are our trees not putting any leaves on? Well, it's because 3 weeks earlier they were budding, and then you got a hard freeze that killed all the buds. You know, those are the kind of things that if you anticipate, you might be able to protect your plants before the worst happens.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the conversation, right? With these just fluctuating weather patterns that are happening at this time of year. I mean, I kind of myself, like I said, we got our container trees out there. My favorite one is my peach tree. And I was out there the other day because of our warm-ups we've been having. The little buds are forming. I'm sure we're going to start, those flowers are going to start sprouting out real soon. But then I worry myself then about, what if we get a freeze? What if the frost? What if we get, last year we had a late snow and freeze that happened, so well into March last year. So again, we got to kind of worry about some of those things. What would be something I would do to mitigate that issue, say for a peach tree like mine? Well, say I was facing a frost coming up.
Yeah, no, I had the exact same thing last year. My peach tree was covered with hundreds of blossoms. And we had that late freeze and all the blossoms froze off. And I had 3 peaches on that tree at the end of the season. And so looking at those 3 peaches in particular, it's because they were on the interior of the tree and they were protected by other blossoms that died. And that's the answer, is to try to protect it. So if you've got a peach tree that's not too big, then throw a tarp over it, throw a big plastic sheet over it on, that night that is going to get cold and potentially threaten it. Try to protect it by covering it if you can. You've probably seen, I think they do it in Oregon, but particularly in California, you can actually spray your tree with water.
I was just going to ask you about that. That's a method I haven't tried yet myself, but I've seen before, and it seems really kind of counterintuitive, doesn't it? Like here you're facing a freeze and I'm going to wet down all of my plants.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's all about the properties of thermodynamics. And when you get into the physics, basically, it takes a lot of energy for water to freeze. And it actually generates energy, just to really simplify it. And so what happens is you can have snow, and you see this with glaciers, where the snow is on top, then you've got an ice level, and the ice can be below freezing, but that lowest layer is water. Even though everything above it is below freezing, you have water that is above 32 degrees. And that's the basic idea, is that layer next to the plant, next to the flower, will be the last to freeze, because it just takes so much energy to freeze. And if the timing is right, you spray water, it starts to freeze overnight, and then the sun comes up and thaws it out before any damage hits your blossoms. Now, there's a lot more science to it than that. And, particularly for home gardeners, it's hoping for a lot of luck that everything goes well. But professional growers are using that. You see it in Florida on national news anytime they have to spray their orange trees for the same reason.
I learned about it. I was watching someone who does large production of pepper plants down in the South, and the video I watched, I remember they were racing and driving as fast as they could to get to this place where they grow out a big portion of their pepper plants for their business and everything. And they're racing out to get there to spray them down with hoses and get them wet before this freeze was coming on. And I was like, man, that just doesn't seem quite right. But that's how they saved that whole crop, which is just kind of just amazing to think about.
Yeah, it's crazy. But you've got to protect the blossoms somehow, and for most of us that means just covering it. I have the fruit trees that I try to keep relatively small, so that worst case scenario I could cover. But the temperature is also important. If it gets down into the 28-degree hard freeze range, then there isn't a lot you can do. You can cover it, but it's probably still going to be damaged. It's mainly if it's just getting to that freezing point or just to the frost point. A simple cover over most plants will be enough to get it through the night.
Perfect. Well, right on, Scott. Here we are. It's the end of another wonderful conversation. Again, so much we've learned today, and I really appreciate your time in joining with us here today. Also want to remind everybody that Gardener Scott, again, he's an author now too. He wrote a book called Your Guide to Raised Bed Gardening. If you want to get a copy of that book too, along with all the other links that we have for Gardener Scott, are right down below in the description. And again, I'll remind everybody, he was on with Nate Murray over at Garden Like a Viking yesterday as well too for his live stream. I got a link for that down below if you want to go check out that live stream. And don't forget, he is right back live on his 3-day live for Gardener Scott this weekend. It's awesome. So he'll be right back at it tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern for all of you to get some of that. I saw some questions popping in there, coming in just a little late. So remember, write those questions down. Go and join Scott tomorrow morning and go ask him there for sure, because he'll be ready to answer those questions for you. And even though the focus of
tomorrow's show will be on seeds.
Mhm.
You know, I always answer other questions as I see them. So we can do the best to help you out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, again, awesome conversation. And I look forward to the next one for sure here on our second Sunday of the month on the Let's Get Growing show. So, again, Scott, thank you so much for being here with us today. We really, really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Enoch. I'll see you next month.
All right. Until
Bye-bye.
next time. Hey gardeners, thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible feature visits. All right. Big, huge thanks again to Gardener Scott for joining with us today. And thank you all so much for all of your just really awesome questions. And I hope that we got most all of them answered. And as I mentioned too, if you didn't get your question answered today, go and join Gardener Scott tomorrow for his live stream tomorrow, and he'll definitely answer those questions for you. I mean, what a wealth of knowledge, but I think we accomplished something today that I don't know if it's happened before on Ask Gardener Scott, but I think we stumped him. We stumped him with a question there on the pH for blackberries there. So I guess that always time for a first, I suppose. But again, he's just such a wealth of knowledge. It's really hard to do. And I think out of all the times we've had him here for, you know, many shows, and I think that might have been the very first time. So it's bound to happen sometime for sure, right? Well, again, thank you everybody here, and also to remind you, we got some great shows coming up. I talked about the ones we had last week. Go back and check out those shows that we had last week, but we also got some great shows coming up this next week right here on the Let's Get Growing show. Next Saturday, we've got joining with us Christy Wilhelmi. She's dropping in from Garden Nerd. We're going to talk a little bit about an announcement that she's got coming up as well too. So it's going to be really fun. We'll talk with Christy next week on the Saturday show, and then we'll be back with our Sunday edition, the Sunday edition of the Let's Get Growing show. Next week is the third Sunday of the month, and on the third Sunday of the month, we have our monthly gardening book club. That's right, Mr. MBC. We saw him just a little bit earlier today with our In the Garden segment talking about containers. Well, he'll be back with us live for In the Garden next week, as well as a conversation with Gary Pilarczyk. That's right, Gary Pilarczyk's back on the show. He was on not too long ago as well, but this time around, we're going to be focusing on his book, Growing an Edible Landscape. Really great book by Gary. We'll dig right into that for our monthly gardening book club for sure next Sunday on the show. And then, of course, like I said, we are your 3-day gardening talk weekend here on the Let's Get Growing show. And our third day is our Monday evening, The Green Room, with Natalie from the Fresh Princess as our co-host. And this next week on The Green Room, not tomorrow night, I'll just mention that here in a minute, but next week on The Green Room, we'll have with us from Dream to Seed will be joining with us, as well as Back Home Backyard or Down Home Backyard Gardening. Let me get that right. We'll have those two joining with us next week on The Green Room. And then coming up here tomorrow night, that's right, we'll be back at it tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern for The Green Room. Again, we will have with us Happy Heart Gardens. Rebecca from Happy Heart Gardens will be joining with us, along with Josh, the plant techie. Josh Gardens will be here. He's also a part of the garden party podcast and all of that as well too. We're going to try, this is my goal, is we get them together sometimes all together to have a fun conversation. But we got the new green room now, so I want to get each of them kind of into some conversations throughout the year here on the green room as well too. So we'll have Josh joining with us coming up tomorrow evening. So really looking forward to that conversation. And I hope you all come and join along with us there as well too. So yeah, here we are, another live stream, getting ready to wrap up here again. Everybody, thank you all for being here. Thanks for joining with us. Also, if you can, before you head out, let's go ahead and click that like button. That's right, hit the thumbs up and subscribe if you didn't get a chance to yet. Share with all of your garden friends and let them know about the Let's Get Growing show and all of these awesome, wonderful guests that we get to enjoy some awesome gardening knowledge and conversations from right here on the show. Again, I say this too, and I'm going to say this more often now as well, is that you're not going to find a gardening live show like this out there that's got so much to offer, and is guests and information and all of this sort of stuff that you get here. So definitely subscribe and share if you can, for sure. So thank you all again for doing that, as well as dropping down below in the description, as I mentioned before, to all of our guest links down below. We got all of the book and Gardener Scott's visit on Garden Like a Viking, and his channel for his live stream tomorrow. We've also got a bunch of links down below too to our garden contributors like Mark Boucher Colbert, Mr. NBC, who shared with us today in the garden, Paul and David as well, that do our in the garden segment. And then we've also got a new segment on our Monday show, Grow What You Eat. We've got Shawnee Grows, we got Robin Gardens, Katrina from Sow and Tear as well too. They've got links down below, and all of the other folks who are helping contribute to the show. Definitely go and click some of those links if you get a chance, and go check out what they've got growing on. And as far as all of our guests and contributors, if you go over and check out what they've got growing on, definitely leave them a comment on one of their videos or posts and let them know that you saw them here on the Let's Get Growing show. So excellent. And I also want to mention too, is I got to start remembering to do this as we get moving forward, is that this show is really kind of, we make a little bit from YouTube and that sorts, but this is also kind of a listener supported live stream as well too. And if you do have a chance or opportunity for any sort of donations towards the channel to help us do some really fun things in the future, definitely drop into the links below as well to like Cash App, Venmo, and those sort of things. If you have the ability to donate, really do appreciate it. But if you don't feel too bad as well. I don't want to be pressuring anybody, but it is really great to get some contributions and some help with our show budget when it comes down to it. Expenses are going to be coming up real soon here in the new year, so trying to get a little ahead of them if we can. So thank you so much for all of you who can contribute. I really do appreciate it. And like I said, we'll be back again here tomorrow night for the green room coming up. We've got a great show. It's really fun. So I really hope to see all of you there. And I'll see, and I guess we'll see you then. Thank you.
Take the run. See you on the flippy flops.